So, Kevin, and let me explain. There were two moments in the film outside of the comedy that stuck with me after I saw it. One was at the end of the set when you were recognizing the realization of a dream, selling out Madison Square Garden. But one was just before you went on stage, a private moment where you say a little prayer to yourself. Why did you decide to include that in the film?
Because I wanted to be authentic. You know, what I do when I'm on tour in every single city is what I wanted to show in the concert film. You know, there's a moment that I always take to myself and I say a prayer. I include my mom in the prayer. And at the end of the show, you know, I got emotional. That wasn't planned. You know, that was actually me realizing, holy shnikes, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm at Madison Square Garden. This is what I've dreamed of doing, and I just did it. And I'm looking at a crowd that's standing up, clapping. So the emotions kind of got the best of me in that moment. But, you know, it's about being genuine and letting your fans get a chance to see who you really are, good or bad, in a concert film. And I think when you put yourself out there like that, your fans have a different respect for you and appreciate you more.
So that prayer before you come on stage, that's a ritual you do every time?
Yep.
Was it important? I mean, it's a unique situation selling out Madison Square Garden. Was it important to keep your rituals and your usual routine going into the show to keep a sense of normalcy about it?
Yeah, you know, of course I was nervous, a lot more nervous than I am any other show because it was Madison Square Garden and I was taping it. But, you know, there's a rush that you get before you go on stage. When I'm in that little hole before I go up, that rush takes over, and it's about going out doing what you do best, and that's making people laugh. I can honestly say that in every single city that I've done, every arena that we've done on this tour, every country that we visited, I've had the same feeling every time I've gotten that hole. Yeah. Madison Square Garden, before I got in the hole, I had to shit. I was the most nervous guy ever, just walking around backstage, biting my fingernails. But once I got to where I'm comfortable and where I know what's about to happen, then it all settled, and it was a hype rush. That's all.
Sure. So speaking of arenas and venues, theaters around the world, outside of Madison Square Garden, which is the one that's meant the most to you to perform in, whether you've sold it out or not?
The O2 is huge. Yeah. I would say the O2 Arena in Wells Fargo in Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia, so that was huge to sell out the Wells Fargo Arena. And as far as the O2 goes, not many comedians have been able to sell that place out. I think there's maybe one or two, and now I'm on the list. So to accomplish that was a great feeling. And I had no idea that we would move those type of tickets over here, but it sold out so quick. It was like, this is amazing. Like, this thing is going to go clean. So I didn't want to add a show. I wanted to, you know, leave basically tickets and everything on the table because I wanted to come back. And when I come back, you know, I want to continue to do great things in the UK, followed by that great thing. I'm not content. I'm not in a place where I'm like, oh, I'm successful. I've done it. I'm done. Yeah. There's a lot more that I want to do. So.
Yeah, sure. I was interested in that because you've said when you began stand-up, you put yourself in a situation where you had to do it to survive. You did it independently. You didn't want to rely on anybody. Now that you've done that, what is the motivation to keep excelling?
Well, the motivation is to become a self-made mogul. You know, at the end of the day, you know, financial stability is one thing, but legacy and mogulization is another. You know, the last name Hart, I want to live on when I'm no longer around through my kids and through a business. You know, when you look at all of these major movie studios, you look at Universal and Warner Brothers and Lionsgate. I mean, there's so many that you can name. You got to ask yourself, were they always this big, or did somebody start them? Somebody started these things. Before they became billion-dollar industries to afford what they're affording, somebody started them. So my goal is to have that or be close to having that, you know? Yeah. Hence, the word mogul. That's why that's so important to me, and that's my ultimate goal, and that's what fuels the engine. That's where the motivation comes from.
To go back to selling out the O2 Arena, being only one of 2 or 3 comedians to do that, You're the 6th comedian, I believe, to sell out Madison Square Garden. Of the 5 before you, I think it's Andrew Dice Clay, Dane Cook, Chris Rock, George Garland, Eddie Murphy. Of those 5, who most inspired you to do the same?
Eddie Murphy out of that group, just because Eddie Murphy made comedy seem so cool, man. Like, you know, I joke around and I call myself a comedic rock star. And I get that from Eddie. Like, he was a rock star back then, you know, performing in all leather with no shirt underneath. And, you know, it was an event. People went to go see Eddie Murphy, but it wasn't, oh man, let's go see this guy. It was, it's Eddie Murphy. This is going to be crazy. It was one of the biggest things that you could attend. So I'm trying to bring that feel back to stand-up comedy.
And how's it feel? I mean, you've cited Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor as 2 of your biggest influences to get into comedy. You've done something they haven't done, selling out Madison Square Garden. I mean, what does that mean to you?
I don't think about it because, you know, on paper, you can look at what I've done and go, wow, wow, wow. And you won't see the same thing on paper for a lot of these, the greats that I named. But you know what? It's not about that. You know, these guys are legends and they're on pedestals, you know. I can't pass Pryor. I can't surpass what Eddie Murphy did, what Chris Rock did, what the Kings of Comedy, what Martin Lawrence did, what Bill Cosby did. I can't surpass what Carlin did, you know, with Seinfeld. You're looking at guys who were so accomplished and so well off from telling jokes. They told jokes. Regardless of what I do, I'm where I am today because of the path and blueprint that those guys laid down before me. And I acknowledge that. I'm aware of that. And that's why I'm so humble and respectful to those guys. So I'm trying to create a lane for myself and literally, you know, make a name for myself. So when it's all said and done, I'm just a name that's mentioned in that category.
Absolutely. So this is the second theatrical comedy concert release you've had a couple of years ago, Laugh at My Pain. I mean, that doesn't happen often or ever.
No.
To release a stand-up in the theatres. And I understand you have plans to do more. How do you want to see this kind of release evolve in comedy?
Well, I just want other comedians to know, like, put time into your brand, you know. That fan base that you're building up to, you know, they're loyal to you. If they like you and they support you, they'll be loyal to you. So when you go into these bigger arenas, you know, a treat of allowing them to see what it is that they tracked for X, Y, and Z amount of time, and to see you live is one thing, but then to go see it in a theater and you still get that live concert feel is another. So for me, I put that time and I put that hard work in, but the reward is literally making your concert film look like a concert, like they're attending a concert. And I think I've done that. I think I've managed to exceed at that task. I have. And what's really, really good about this one is you see me not only on tour, but you get to see the people I'm around that I talk about so much. My friends, you get to see how we interact. You get to see how this whole thing got put together. So it's not just a journey of, here come the jokes. It's literally a story. I put together a story.
Yeah, definitely. And Kevin, just finally, just real quick, you're from Philly. I know you're an NBA fan. 76ers, did they trade Holiday too quick?
I don't know why we got rid of Holiday. You just made me depressed that fast thinking about it. I'm clueless to why, man. I mean, literally, he was one of the rising guards in the league. So to let him go was definitely a low blow. I mean, hopefully our management has a plan. I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough to be a Sixers fan right now. It really is.
Definitely, man. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.